So let's go. Let's start today with the Red Knight. It says, hello, my name is Michelle. I've been doing 3D for about 2.5 years, but haven't really focused on it until my last year in uni. I recently finished my VA degree in animation and game art, and I want to move on to masters in 3D games art. Oh, that's awesome. I know that I shouldn't have 2D art mixed with 3D art when applying for work, but I wanted to know if it's okay for masters. And I also wanted to know if I should have more 3D work in the style of the characters I have. I aim for stylized work, and I want to be a bit of a generalist, since I think it will be easier to find work for that rather than just a character modeler. Thank you for the opportunity. I've learned a lot from watching the previous portfolio reviews, and I'm sure I'm not alone. Let's take a look at Michelle over here. Let's visit this. There we go. And cool. So first impression that I get, this is quite nice. I definitely see it very colorful. I really like this banner that you have right here. It looks interesting. It does look a little bit empty on some areas. We'll talk about this in just a second. And let's take a look at the 3D. Now, I don't have, let's say, a big issue when you combine 2D and 3D stuff. However, if you're applying to a specific place, you do want to do a little bit of a curation of your work. So if you're going to be sending someone your link and you want to be doing 3D art, you probably send them this link right here, right? The one that goes straight to the 3D art, so they don't check the 2D art immediately. If they later want to see a little bit of your 2D art, that's great. But usually you want to make sure that they're focusing specifically on what you want to share. Now, this is where things get a little bit tricky, Michelle, because one of the things that I see on this model, for instance, is... Oh, actually, see a couple of things here to improve. So I don't love the design. I'm not sure if you got this design yourself, like if you did it yourself, or if you had a like a concept piece, right? But the thing is, it looks very, very, very blocky, right? Like everything is just like almost 90-degree angles. I applaud the fact that you didn't do the metal edgeware thing, so we have a little bit more variation of the metal edgeware. That's great. The counter's not going to be going up in this one, but it's important that you understand that this is not very unique. It looks very, I don't know, it just looks very blocky, right? So if we take a look, for instance, at building design concept art, you're going to see that buildings are usually a lot more interesting in terms of shapes. Actually, I want to show you something really, really cool right now. So for instance, this one right here. This looks very, very interesting. And the reason why it looks so interesting is because it has a lot of shapes. I've been getting a lot, or I've been learning a lot about like traditional stuff. It's sort of like my hobby right now. I've been learning a lot about digital painting and drawing and things like that. Not necessarily because I want to do that professionally, but just because I want to learn a little bit more about art. Because, you know, always learning, always improving. And one of the things that they mentioned is that, like right now, if we take a look at the shapes right here, you're gonna see that this is pretty much just a box. Yes, there's a little bit of a flare here with the sides of the building, but it's pretty much just a box with maybe another secondary box right here. But as you can see, the silhouette of the secondary box is really close to the first box, and that to me, especially when seen from afar, it just reads like a box, right? Like just a very, very simple box. So if we want to make this thing a little bit more interesting, what we need to think about is how can we make this box, you know, a little bit more unique. So for instance, if we go and make or use the same sort of like box layer, we can incorporate the same design. Like we have this nice, interesting design, but let's really push it. Let's really exaggerate this design and push it so that it goes beyond the normal like bounds of what we have right there. So by doing this, and now the design has changed, we have this sort of like overhang over here. And if you want to have that little taper effect, we can also do that. That's like a triangle shape. What if we push the triangle, but make it really, really aggressive towards the back right there? Okay, I know this is like a super ugly like sketch right there, but hopefully you see how combining the shapes is a lot more important. So in this case right here, I do think we have some nice tertiary details. The glowy bits on the building right here are quite nice. And for instance, I like this like matte base element right here, the yellow line right there. Like this building right here, this yellow building, way better as a design. Same for this one right here, way better as a design than this one right here. Why? Because this look a little bit more complex. They have more shape breakdowns, and they're following the cupcake principle. But this one right here, I do feel it's a little bit on the you know, boring side. So personally, for this particular piece right here, I would change the design. So instead of showing me this building right here, show me this one, show me the yellow one, or show me this one right here. Again, I know that these are the concepts, and maybe you only did this one right here, so it might be a good idea to do some of these other ones. Now, one more thing here, Michelle, these UVs, they're very, very bad. Very, very, very bad UVs. I strongly recommend that you watch my video. If you just Google Leal 3D UVs, you're gonna find this one right here, everything you need to know about UVs. Use that one. Use that one to learn where to do the proper cuts for this, because this looks like an automatic like UV thing that you did for the whole thing. And I know you can texture it, you did texture it, but it's not efficient. There's way more cuts than you need, and it's very difficult to find specific pieces. So we definitely need to work on the UVs, okay? So take a look at that, okay, Michelle? Now this one's it's nice. I really like it. It's a full character, which is always complex to do, and I like the fact that you did everything. Again, UVs, we need to improve them a little bit, because 9 UVs at 4K resolution, that's way too much. If you've seen the this one right here, the pirate that I did, this whole character, along with all of the props and everything, is just one single 4K map. And you can see how much texture I can actually get on the character with just one 4K map. So imagine if I had access to like 9K UVs, like this can be pushed like even further. So if you're going to be using 9 UDIMs right here, we definitely need to either like push our textures way more, or make sure that the detail is working there. I love the fact that you're doing your own concepts, by the way, Michelle. That's tough. Like I'm not a very creative person in that sense. I suck at designing stuff. I actually am working to get better at that. So the fact that you're doing your own concepts is cool. But I do recommend, if you can, to try to do someone else's concept too, because you're gonna learn more about that. When you do your own concepts, sometimes what happens is you end up doing a little bit of cheating here and there, where you get to a point where you face something that's very difficult to translate from your concept to the 3D element, and you modify it. So it's very important that you try to do someone else's concept. And finally, on this one right here, I really like this, and I like the fact that you did like everything. There's things that we can do on the cards to make sure that they don't look as flat and as planes. And very importantly, yeah, this is it. Like I was gonna say, the thing that we're missing here is the final sort of like cherry on top, right? Because right now it's a very, I don't want to say boring environment, because I really like the colors, but it's very bland. There's not a lot of stuff going on, and it would be very cool if we could add like the little like what's the name of this thing in English? Spanish is jabalí, but I don't know what the name is in English. Hog? I think they're called them hogs or something like that. Boar. There you go. A boar. Yeah. So you need to, yeah, like adding a boar would be interesting, just to make the whole thing pop a little bit more. Okay. But good stuff, Michelle. Hopefully with the little tips that I mentioned about like the form hierarchy and where to place the attention is that gives you a nice orientation of what to do next. And UVs, definitely work on UVs to make sure that the UVs are very clean, because this is it does look a little bit wasteful, to be honest. Like for instance, this head right here, it doesn't have the proper cuts, and it's looking a little bit weird, and we definitely need to work a little bit more on that. Check the video that I linked. That's definitely gonna help you. Okay.